Listen carefully. Don't look away, because what they did to you was not normal. It was not small. It was not one of those tidy little injuries people patch over with fake wisdom and cheap advice. No, what they did to you had a smell to it, a spiritual smell. The kind that lingers in a room long after the bodies are gone. The kind that tells you something sacred was touched by filthy hands. The kind that makes your stomach turn before your mind can even find the language for why. That is how evil works when it wants to stay invited. It does not always arrive screaming. It does not always kick down the front door with blood on its teeth and madness in its eyes. Sometimes it comes dressed like love. Sometimes it comes smiling. Sometimes it comes wearing patience, concern, loyalty, authority, tradition, or virtue. Sometimes it shakes your hand with one hand and loosens the bolts beneath your feet with the other. Sometimes it calls itself help, while slowly teaching your nervous system to live inside a cage. And that is why what happened to you is so hard to explain to people who have only studied cruelty from a safe distance. They are looking for obvious monsters. They want cartoon villains. They want neat categories. They want halos over the good and horns over the wicked, so they can sleep at night, believing the world is simple. But you found out the truth in the ugliest way possible. You found out that the saint can have a butcher's appetite. You found out that the soft voice can hide surgical cruelty. You found out that an angel can stand in the doorway while your soul is quietly dismantled and still be praised by the room for being such a good person. That is what made your stomach turn, not just the pain, the contradiction, the way the mask and the violence were wearing the same face. That is the part that breaks people differently. Not the blow itself, but the confusion around it. The fact that your spirit knew something was wrong before your mind had the courage to say it out loud. The fact that your body flinched in places your logic was still trying to defend. The fact that what they did to you was so deeply unnatural, so precisely violating, that some ancient part of you knew it before language ever arrived. Your blood understood before your vocabulary did. Your shadow understood before your smile stopped pretending. And still, you stayed longer than you should have. Didn't you? Of course you did. Because that is what decent people do when they are being destroyed by indecent forces dressed in familiar skin. They hesitate. They reinterpret. They excuse. They give one more chance, then one more after that. And then one more after the wound has already learned your name by heart. They keep trying to rescue the image of who they thought they were dealing with, even while the reality keeps cutting deeper. They keep waiting for the mask to become the face, not realizing the mask was the weapon all along. And that is where the real horror lives, not in the violence alone, in the intimacy of it, in the calculated normalcy, in the way a human being can look directly at another human being and decide to make a home inside their suffering. Nobody should ever do that to another human being. Nobody. But people do. Every day. In rooms without cameras. In conversations without witnesses. In relationships without clear crime scenes. In little private theaters where one person slowly learns how much damage can be done without leaving fingerprints. That is the modern miracle of cruelty. It has learned manners. It has learned timing. It has learned plausible deniability. It has learned how to smile while crossing lines so subtle that by the time you can prove what happened, something inside you has already been rearranged. That was not your imagination. That was not oversensitivity. That was not you being dramatic. That was your soul sounding an alarm. in a language most people are too conditioned to respect. And let me tell you something dangerous now. The fact that you survived it changes you. Not in the soft, decorative way people post about under sunsets and healing quotes. No, it changes you in a darker way first, a more honest way. It changes your appetite. It changes your relationship to innocence. It changes the way you hear certain words, the way you read pauses, the way you notice patterns in voices, eyes, smiles, timing. It turns your old trust into a crime scene and forces you to study every shattered piece until you no longer have the luxury of seeing people the way you used to. That is painful. But it is also power. Ugly power. Expensive power. The kind of power nobody wants if they have any other choice. Because what did it cost you? Sleep, softness, naivety. The ability to casually believe. The ability to walk into a room and assume everyone there was human in the same way you are human. That is a brutal tax to pay for wisdom. But once you have paid it, something terrifying begins to happen. You start seeing too much. You start noticing how often care is control with better posture. How often guidance is domination with polite wording. How often concern is surveillance wearing perfume. How often I'm doing this for you really means I need access to your boundaries. How often I love you is just hunger that learned how to sing. And once you see that, you cannot go back. That is the curse of becoming conscious through pain. The old world dies. The simple world dies. The world where all smiles meant warmth and all gentle voices meant safety and all respected people deserved respect. That world burns down in front of you. And in its place rises another world, colder and far more accurate, where you finally understand that darkness is not always loud. Sometimes darkness is organized. Sometimes darkness is admired. Sometimes darkness has excellent posture and clean fingernails, and a reputation for being wonderful. You found that out. You found it out in the flesh. And your stomach turned because something deep inside you realized this was not merely wrong. It was profane. There are things human beings do to each other that feel worse than injury because they violate the sacred architecture of trust itself. They enter places that should have remained untouched. They twist things that should have remained pure. They make your own kindness feel unsafe to carry. They make your own heart feel like a liability. And when that happens, the damage is not just emotional, it is spiritual, it is structural. It reaches into your instincts and teaches them to hesitate in places where they once opened freely. That is why your recovery does not look pretty. That is why your growth does not sound gentle. That is why parts of you now carry a coldness you did not have before. And you know what? Good. Because not every loss should leave you softer. Some losses should leave you sharper. Some betrayals should make your discernment ruthless. Some violations should teach your peace to grow teeth. You do not owe the world the same access after what it taught you. Let that sit there for a moment. You do not owe the world the same version of you after what it did with the last one. That does not mean become cruel. It means stop being available to cruelty. It means stop handing out sacred parts of yourself to people who treat intimacy like a laboratory. It means stop confusing tolerance with virtue. It means stop telling yourself that enduring disrespect is a sign of emotional maturity. It is not. Sometimes endurance is just delayed self-betrayal in holy clothing. Sometimes staying calm is fear wearing spiritual makeup. Sometimes being the bigger person is just another way people train you to remain digestible while they continue feeding on your silence. No more. No more. that chapter is over. Because what happened to you did something to your nervous system? Yes, but it also did some things to your sight. It forced your eyes open in a way comfort never could. And once your eyes are open, unpredictability becomes your inheritance. That is what scares people, not your pain. Your unpredictability after pain. Before they knew how to handle you, before they could map your decency, before they could count on your restraint, your patience, your willingness to explain, to forgive, to keep the peace, to doubt yourself before doubting their intent, before they could bait you with guilt and guide you with shame and count on the old version of you to stay morally obedient while being quietly violated. But now there is weather in you. Now there is a silence in you that no longer asks to be understood before it protects itself. Now there is a gaze in you that sees both halos and knives at the same time. Now there is a part of you that no longer worships appearances. That is a problem for liars. That is a catastrophe for manipulators. That is a nightmare for polished monsters. Because polished monsters require one thing above all else: your participation in the illusion. They need you to keep mistaking form for substance. They need you to keep treating good branding as good character. They need you to keep assuming kindness in the language of people who have studied your vulnerabilities like a map. They need your innocence, and innocence, once murdered, does not resurrect the same. No, it returns with scars. It returns with discernment. It returns with a blade hidden behind its back, and a prayer still flickering in its chest. That is what you are becoming now. A contradiction, a paradox, half mercy, half warning, half angel, half aftermath.